What are your thoughts on Chocolate Thunder, Daryl Dawkins?
I could give you that. He was also he also named his dunks as well. So and every
Right,
dunk
right, right.
he came up with, he had a different name for it. So
Yeah, man, and like you said, he named his first backboard breaking dunk the Chocolate Thunder Flying, Robin Zine crying, teeth shaking, glass breaking, rump roasting, bun toasting, wham bam, glass breaker, I am jam. That was the name of the dunk.
I am the greatest, the greatest, the greatest, the greatest.
What up, though, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the GOAT Debate Podcast. So glad you guys are joining us here. Those that are watching live on Facebook, those of you guys that are listening via whatever podcast outlet you listen to podcast on, we certainly appreciate the love and support. Meech and Darius typically here with you for the episodes of the GOAT Debate, but we have a fill-in tonight. Meech is here. I'm here, of course. But I got to fill in. Got my homeboy, my Ace Boone Coon. He's also family. My cuz, one of our frequent listeners as well. We got James joining us for tonight's episode. James, man, thank you for filling in a pinch. Darius had an emergency, had to be away, so we hope everything's cool on his end. But we're certainly glad that you could fill in tonight. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. It's no problem. Um, Thank you for asking me to do this.
Yeah,
Um, Hopefully we have some fun tonight.
yeah, for sure, man. And it's
Uh,
fitting
oh,
that. Yeah, go ahead. What you about to say?
Go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's fitting that you're on tonight. One of the things that of course we do together is coach basketball, and tonight is a basketball centered episode. So with the NBA playoffs abound, obviously NBA playoffs are going on. The guys are playing in the
Right.
bubble. It's a very fitting night. Do you have a? I hear some feedback in the background. I just wanted to make sure that's not me.
No. That was my Chromebook. I was
Oh,
getting it
okay.
set up
All
on
right.
live. That's
Got
all.
you.
Yeah.
Okay. But as I was saying, with us being entrenched in NBA basketball and NBA playing the playoffs in the bubble, one of the things, of course, we are most excited about, or we get most excited about when we watch basketball, of course, is slam dunks. And throughout NBA history, throughout basketball history, we have had some very prolific dunkers. And so tonight on this episode of the GOAT Debate Podcast, James and I are going to debate the best in-game dunkers in NBA history. So we're not talking about slam dunk contests, where obviously there have been some great dunkers that have competed in those events. We're not talking about slam dunk contests. We're actually talking about in-game dunks and who amongst all of the great dunkers in NBA history was the most prolific in that area. So tonight, best in-game dunkers in NBA history. James, are you ready?
Most definitely. Let's get it going.
All right, all right. So as we like to do on every episode of the Go Debate podcast, for those that are unfamiliar with how the format of the show works, we generally count down whatever topic we're discussing in the given week from 5 to 1. We take a composite of my top five, Darius's top five, and the top five of our group of listeners that we have dubbed the tribe. That's you guys out there who support the show. And we come up with a composite ranking and we count down our top five. So that's how tonight's show is going to go. James's top five, his picks were incorporated into the tribe voting. So tonight the composite really consists of my top five and the tribe's top five. And we'll kind of discuss some of James' picks because I think some of his picks are in our actual top five. But before we get into the top five, we always like to talk about the first two out, which is our honorable mentions, those dunkers in this case, who didn't quite make the top five, but got a significant number of votes from the tribe. So we're going to get into that real quick, and we're going to start with a guy who actually he might be playing right now. The LA Lakers are playing the Portland Trail Blazers in the in the NBA playoffs, as we know, and the Blazers shocked them in game one. But of course, the star of the Los Angeles Lakers, or one of the stars, is LeBron James, one of the most prolific, one of the most dynamic athletic dunkers that I think we've ever seen in NBA history. And our first honorable mention tonight is LeBron James. And James, not LeBron, James, you give us some thoughts on LeBron James and what you think of him, as a dunker.
Well, LeBron James is definitely one of my favorite players of all time, and it's debatable if he's ever going to is that he's the GOAT. But I did not have him ranked anywhere in my top five or even honorable mention.
Okay.
He's an athletic. He's an athletic player, and his dunks are very powerful. But most of his dunks to me were basic. It's the same dunk, and I mean he did the Kobe remake. I know that, but it's like his dunks weren't creative enough for me in game. I should say. I mean he gets up there, but
okay. So let me ask you this: what is your criteria then when you were compiling your list of top five in-game dunkers? What was your criteria for whether or not a guy made your list?
Number one, something memorable.
Okay.
That's number one.
All right.
It has to be something that throughout generations, as we go through tonight, a lot of you all will remember certain dunks that some of these players we're gonna mention, because it was memorable.
Okay.
I only can remember a couple of memorable dunks from LeBron James. Like I said, he's a powerful dunker, but like I said, he just it's the same thing over and over again. So he gets down the court, he cocks it back and he blows it away. Now, memorable dunks, creativity, and those basically my top two criteria right there.
Okay. All right. Well, I think for me, when I was coming up with my list of best dunkers, one of the things, of course, memorable dunks is definitely something that was on my list. Flight, height, power, those are all things that I took into consideration. And LeBron does have some memorable dunks. I don't know if you remember when he dunked on Jason Terry, uh, when
Oh
Jason
yeah,
Terry played for Dallas, and
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was one of them. Yeah,
you put Jason Terry like on his back. I think LeBron was playing for the Heat at that time. He put
yeah,
Terry on his
yeah.
back. He got Tim Duncan
You
really
put him in
good
the
because I
body
went
bag.
back and watched. You go on YouTube and you put in a basketball player. You can put in their top 10 dunks or whatever, and it'll show you. It'll show you a little highlight reel. So he got Tim Duncan really good when he played his first stint with the Cavs. I always remember the alley oop from Dwayne Wade where LeBron dunks it and Wade kind of or was that Wade kind of throws his hands up
Yeah,
because
what?
he's looking at
Yeah,
looking
he
at the
throws his
crowd
hands up.
and LeBron throws
Yeah,
it down. So and one thing I want to add too, facials was definitely something I took into consideration too. Like, did you have some memorable dunks where you actually dunked on people? Now, LeBron does not have a lot of those, like where he actually like booms out on a guy. Like the Jason Terry one, he got Tim Duncan real good. There's a third one, man. I was watching a highlight video. I can't think of it right now, but there was another one
you
where he
talking about the
got
one with
somebody.
Nurkic?
No, was it? No, it wasn't Nurkic. That one I didn't see. But there was a third one that I can't recall. But LeBron does have a couple where he actually dunks on people. But LeBron, man, is a prolific dunker. I get your point where you're saying like there's not really anything that sticks out, but he is a powerful dunker. He's extremely athletic. I just think about where his head is when he actually jumps up and dunks the basketball. He definitely gets up. So LeBron James comes in as our first honorable mention tonight. He did not make the top five, but he did get some votes. He was number five on my list. On my personal list, I had him at number five.
Oh,
And so I did think he deserves some top five recognition tonight. So LeBron James, our first honorable mention, and our second honorable mention. We actually have three honorable mentions tonight because we did have a tie. So tied with LeBron was a guy who I was really surprised that this guy got consideration considering the era that he played in. He's a little older of a basketball player, so I was wondering, how many people would remember him playing, and definitely remember his powerful dunking ability. I mean, we think about guys like, Shaquille O'Neal who broke backboards and destroyed rims, but the guy that was doing that before Shaq was Daryl Dawkins, Chocolate Thunder
Chocolate
himself.
Thunder.
Chocolate Thunder. I mean, he played he had an NBA career that he played from 75 to 95. So he played 20 years in the NBA. He played for the Sixers, the Nets, the Jazz, played for our Detroit Pistons. And then
Yeah,
he ended
yeah.
his career kind of playing overseas, things of that nature. But he had some very memorable dunks, particularly when he was shattering backboards. What are your thoughts on Chocolate Thunder, Daryl Dawkins?
I could give you that. He was also he also named his dunks as well. So and every
Right,
dunk
right, right.
he came up with, he had a different name for it. So and he was fun. He was one of fun guys back in the day, but
Yeah.
um he 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 wasn't like a superstar, but the dunks is what made him
Mm-hmm.
popular. So so yeah, I have to
Right,
give it up
right.
to him. I have to give it up to him.
Yeah, man. And like you said, he named his first backboard breaking dunk the Chocolate Thunder flying, Robinzine crying, teeth shaking, glass breaking, rump roasting, bun toasting, wham bam, glass breaker, I am jam. That was the name of the dunk. And he said, and what's
Right.
funny is Robinzine crying. He actually dunked on a guy named Bill Robinzine. I think it might be Robinzine if I'm mispronouncing it. But
Yeah.
when he first
Yeah.
his first
Robertson.
shattered backboard was against the Sacramento. I'm sorry, was against the San Antonio Spurs. I'm sorry, Kansas City Kings. Then he did it again against the San Antonio Spurs. I'm looking at facts here and misreading, but yeah. So Robinson played for the Kings, and he had to duck because Chocolate Thunder was bringing the thunder. Like you said, he had nicknames for himself too. Sir Slam. You talk
Yeah.
about
Yep.
Dr. Duncanstein. He called
Dr.
himself Dr.
Dunderstein. Yep.
Duncanstein. And the name that really stuck, of course, was Chocolate Thunder. And then some of his dunks, the rim wrecker, the gorilla, the look out below, the in your face disgrace, the cover your head, the yo mama, the spine chiller supreme, the Greyhound special. I mean, this guy, like you said, he wasn't a prolific NBA superstar, but he named his dunks, and that made it more fun, and it definitely made him more known, during his days playing in the NBA. He also had a brief stint with the Harlem Globetrotters. I don't know if you knew
Yep.
that,
Yep. He sure
but
did. Yep.
with that dunking ability, it's kind of fitting that he might get some love from the Globetrotters. So Daryl Dawkins, our second honorable mention, he was tied with LeBron. And then speaking of power, I kind of just alluded to this guy talking about our last honorable mention now before we get into our top five. I kind of alluded to this guy when I talked about shattering backboards. And it's interesting again, we had Daryl Dawkins, who was more of a power dunker. LeBron kind of is a blend. LeBron is a power dunker,
Yeah.
but LeBron can finesse it too. He can double pump and windmill. He can do all of those things. Dawkins was more of a power dunker. But then this last honorable mention doesn't get any more powerful than Shaq. Shaq was the ultimate power dunker and is our last honorable mention tonight as we count down the best in-game dunkers in NBA history. Shaquille O'Neal, uh, speaking of a guy who likes to come up with nicknames, not necessarily for his dunks, but for himself, the big Shactus,
He
Shaq
done nicknamed.
Fu.
Yeah, he done nicknamed a lot of NBA players too.
Yeah,
Paul Pierce, the True, Tim
yeah,
Duncan, the Big
yeah,
Fundamentals. So yeah, and with Shaq, I I wanted to squeeze him in there, and now you might say it go basic, but Shaq was dunking on everybody,
yeah,
and he do that drop step, and it was over with. You under the basket, you getting crammed on. I have you ever Well, I think the only person I ever seen block Shaq's dunk was probably Ben Wallace, and that
yeah,
I don't know if I ever seen anybody else do it. So,
yeah,
but yeah,
man. I
he
mean,
definitely
yeah, I mean,
one of the
he
most
was just
powerful dunkers.
so powerful. I remember, I want to say maybe it was against the New Jersey Nets where he tore the rim down. He didn't break the glass, but he like brought the whole rim like down, But
Was that New Jersey or Phoenix?
one of the two. I can't
Yeah,
remember, but it was
yeah,
one of
but
the
he brought
two.
the yeah
He
they
brought the
and
whole he brought the whole rim
he brought
down.
Yeah, and he brought the. No, it's Phoenix where he dunked the ball so hard the support just went. It just broke all the way down, and
Yeah.
they tried to fix it and they couldn't. It delayed the game for about like 45 minutes. So yeah. Now that was
Yeah,
some
man.
memorable dunk. So
Yeah, and I,
yeah,
I remember, the MO, or I guess the rap on Shaq was that at one time was that all he could do was dunk. But it's like, well, when you're that dominant, it is what it is. And you're right. I'm actually looking at it's a clip running right now. He actually did bring down the rim against Phoenix. He brought the
yeah,
rim down, Charles Barkley was in Phoenix at the time, and he was
yep.
looking shocked when he saw the rim come down. So yeah, man, Shaq is one of the most powerful dunkers. Again, we're not talking about a finesse dunker when we're talking about Shaq, but we're talking about a guy with immense power, immense ability, and you did not want to be in his way when he dunked. So our honorable mentions tonight: LeBron James, Daryl Dawkins, and Shaquille O'Neal as we count down the best in-game dunkers in NBA history. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's start with number five. And this is a guy who, when you think slam dunks, like when you think slam dunks, he's one of the first guys that comes to mind. He was kind of that guy who kind of revolutionized the game with his athleticism and his dunking ability. A lot of guys who play today and maybe in the generation before this current generation, so let's say the Jordan era, a lot of those guys emulated this man and wanted to be this man from an athletic standpoint on the court. Coming in at number five tonight on our most or our best in-game dunkers in NBA history is Julius Dr. J. Irving. Man, what can we say about Dr. J you know that hasn't already been said? He's one of the great. Not only was he a great dunker, he was just a great player in
Yeah,
general. Nets, Sixers, ABA. I think about the dunk where he cuffs it. He cuffs it under and then
Hmm.
brings it back and dunks it. James, what do you think about Dr. J and his placement here on this list tonight?
Well, I had him at number 5.
Okay.
I tried to see if I could bring him up a little bit higher, but the only thing I could say was he got in the NBA a little bit too late,
Hmm.
and he was like at the end of his prime or going into the end of his prime when he got on the 76ers. So most of his dunks were in spectacular dunks were in the ABA, and in fact, the NBA adopted the dunk contest from the ABA because that's where
Right.
all that started from. And he was
Yep.
that's the guy who really revolutionized the dunk. And uh I mean, like I said, it's appropriate to have him on the top 5 because I think when you think, like you said, when you think of Duncan, and if you're really a basketball enthusiast, you would think of Dr. J.
Yeah.
And I think it's appropriate he be at number 5.
Man, and listen, Dr. J, like, he dunked on people. He had a dunk. I was
Yeah,
looking at some of his top 10 dunks. He boomed out on Kareem. He got Herb Williams real good, one time. And he just got up, man. He just skied. He had that long wingspan. So when he put that ball up in the air, you know, he threw it down. And I mean,
they said it.
he had a
Oh,
dunk where he dunked on two Phoenix Suns. Larry Nance was one of them. He comes
hmm
down the lane and he just throw. I mean, man, he throws it down. So Dr. J is definitely deserving, in terms of being on this list. He got Bill Walton really good.
yeah,
I mean,
well,
like Dr. J, when you think about it, he has, looking at his highlights, like his top 10 dunks of the guys in the top 5, he probably has the most facials where he actually is like dunking on dudes.
yeah,
But when his to me, his most popular dunk is where he comes down the baseline, you know, uh I think it's Michael Cooper who's trailing with him and they're
yep,
playing the
yep,
Lakers and
yep.
he just cuffs that boy and Michael Cooper goes running like into the first
Right,
row of
right,
the
right,
crowd,
right
and
past
Dr.
us.
J,
Yeah,
yeah, Dr. J is still flying in the air and cuffs that bug and brings it up and throws it down. So,
that
yeah, Dr. J is certainly worthy of being on this list and definitely one of the most prolific dunkers in NBA history.
I agree. I agree. And
Yeah.
rumor has it he was still dunking at the age of 50,
Oh
so
wow.
he's still
Wow.
getting up there. So,
That
so
that's
he stayed in good shape.
yeah, man. Yeah. That doesn't surprise me. But so Dr. J coming in at number 5 here. Now we're going to move on to number 4. And this guy, probably the highlight of his dunking probably came a little bit earlier in his career. He's still relatively no, he's still a relatively young guy. He's not a really old guy, but he's had some injuries that have kind of worn him down a bit. But when this guy, he's currently a Detroit Piston, but when this guy was playing for the Los Angeles Clippers, Lob City, he had some of the most powerful, some of the most memorable dunks in recent NBA history. And we're talking about none other than Blake Griffin coming in at number 4. Man, one of the first ones that comes to mind is when he dunks on Timothy Mozgov.
Mm,
He lets Timothy Mozgov have it.
have it.
Have it. He oh my god. It was like he Mozgov jumped and Blake just kept going up
He
and
goes higher. Yeah, he
just threw it
is going
down.
higher and higher.
Yeah, one of the most athletic. When you talk about catching alley oops, he was definitely one of the most, and he's still a great player, but he's not known anymore for his dunking ability because of his injuries. But Blake Griffin, man, give me your thoughts on him and his placement on this list.
Um, yeah, I also placed him at number 4 on this list, and this guy is this guy was awesome. And at first, at first, it was kind of like the Shaq thing with him. He was just known for dunking, but he expanded his game, but he was still doing them highlight reel dunks. And him, Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan, Lob City,
Yeah,
loved it,
yeah,
loved it.
man. Yeah, he
And
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, and it's unfortunate that his injuries, he's not really the same player anymore. But uh, but yeah, he's definitely had some highlight reel moments. And I was looking at a top 50 of top 100 dunks, and I think he had at least 10 of them in them highlight reels,
Okay.
and maybe about 2 in the top 10 of all time, I believe. So yeah, he's up there.
Yeah, man, he's definitely like I said, he's definitely worthy of being in the top five. I know we were I was looking at Bleacher Report, and Bleacher Report has an article that came out earlier this year where they counted down the top 20 dunkers in NBA history, and I'm pretty sure Blake was in the top five. I think he might have been number two or number three. He was
Okay.
definitely up there. His Mozgov dunk, he got Paul Gasol really good, and
Oh
Paul
yeah,
Gasol was pissed because it really was an offensive foul. Like he used a lot of off arm to
yeah he did.
hold Paul's arm down from attempting to block his shot. But but yeah, he got Gasol up out of there real quick, and definitely, showed some great ability. I thought it was him. I almost wanted to call out the dunk on Brandon Knight, but that was
No,
DeAndre
that was
Jordan.
DeAndre Jordan.
That wasn't
Yeah,
Blake Griffin. But
he put a body
when I was
bag in
thinking
him.
about yeah. When I was thinking about Lob City, I was like, man, I remember Blake when he dunked on Brandon Knight, and then I went back and looked at the clips, and I was like, oh, that was DeAndre Jordan
No, that was DeAndre
who
Jordan.
boomed out on Night like that. And Brandon Knight hasn't been the same. So yeah, man, he was never the same after that. So Blake Griffin coming in at number 4 on our list of the best in game dunkers in NBA history. And now coming in at number 3, we're going to take it out to the Pacific Northwest, a franchise that is no longer, well, technically, it is still in existence, but no longer playing basketball in Seattle. They now are the we know them as the Oklahoma City Thunder today, but they were at one time the Seattle Supersonics. And Seattle, a great city, right? I think the NBA is really trying to push hard to get a team back in Seattle. But when they had a team in Seattle, they did win a championship, I think, like in the 70s, and then they kind of fell off. And then they drafted 2 young guys who turned out to be a catalyst to get Seattle back to basketball relevancy. That was Gary Payton, and that was the man coming in at number 3 on our list, the Rain Man, Sean Kemp. If my cousin Brian is listening to this episode, this guy was a Sean Kemp
So
fanatic.
yeah, he
He
was.
watched VHS tapes of Sean Kemp all the time. All the time. Loved Sean Kemp. Sean Kemp was, coming up, in the, I guess he played what? Late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah,
He was one of
mid 80s.
Yeah, he was
Mid
he was
'80s going into the '90s.
one of the most athletic basketball players I had ever seen, man. Like the dude could just jump out the gym, supremely athletic, man. What are your thoughts on Sean Kemp?
Well, I had him ranked number 2 on my list, and
Mm-hmm.
Sean Kemp, I think he was ahead of his time because he would fit perfectly in today's game. As far as his athleticism,
Yeah.
they could. I mean, he was quick. He was so quick and athletic that he could guard small forwards. He was a power forward, and they even sometimes put him in at center, and he was a mismatch. But man, he had so many memorable dunks. It's like he'd get the ball at half court and he'll take like 2, 3 steps and he at the rim just dunking on somebody. Gatlin, Chris Gatlin, who else? I mean, he just dunked on the whole Bulls team back in the finals, you know. So he's definitely one of my favorite dunkers. I wanted him. It was like a tie for him for like number one. Personally, it could have been a 1A, 1B, and it could have went either way. Personally, I think he should be in the top 2 with the whole list, but he made it at third place, so I guess that's not too bad. But
Yeah.
definitely one of the greatest dunkers in the game ever.
Yeah,
In game dunk.
it's probably my fault that he didn't make the top two because the tribe actually voted him number two. He actually lost he in the tribe voting, the tribe of course being our listeners that we poll before we did the show tonight. He was one vote below the guy who got the most votes. So it was
Oh,
very,
really?
very close. Yeah. I had Kemp number 4 on my list. Um,
Ah,
I thought, and I'll tell you why. Oh, and Sean Kemp before I tell you why. Sean Kemp got Bill Lambier too. Since we want to talk about
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
he got Bill Lambier real good. He got Bill Lambier. He got Chris Gatlin. You know what's funny about he got Chris Gatlin twice. But you know what's
yeah.
funny about one of them is like Chris Gatlin just had to like dap him up. He was just like, man, like what can I say? You got me, bro. Like he gave him a 5 and everything. Like in the middle after the play was over
Yeah.
because it was an and one too because they called a foul. So, but the reason I had Sean Kemp at number 4 was because when I watched highlights, or maybe it was who did he dunk on when he pointed? It wasn't Gatlin when he pointed at him, right? It was
It was
Lister, Alton.
Victor Alexander. No,
It,
Altown Lister.
oh
Altown
yeah,
Lister.
Alton Lister, yeah, Lister
Yeah, the
when he
Lister
pointed at him.
Blister.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
When
was
he
the
pointed
Lister
at him,
Blister. He named that the
but
Lister Blister. Yeah,
yeah, but he got Gatling, like I said, and dapped him up. But the reason I
he
put
dapped him up.
Kemp at number 4 is because I just felt like I had Blake above him. I had Blake Griffin above him, and the reason I had Blake above him is because I just felt like Blake had slightly more in like the Mozgov dunk was just sick. And I know Kemp has the Lister dunk. He has the Gatlin dunk. He dunked on Lambeer. I just felt like Griffin's dunks were a little more impactful, and that's why I had him slightly ranked higher than Sean Kemp. But Sean Kemp definitely you could make an argument that he's number 1. You know, you could make an argument that he's the best in-game dunker of all time. But he does come in at number 3 on our list. Again, you know, his career was cut a little short. Obviously, that doesn't take away from his impact as far as in-game dunking goes. But I would have loved to see if he would have kept himself in shape and kind of kept himself together, what he would have become, you know, on the basketball court. You know, going forward, he was a great player, man, but you know, he kind of ran out of gas. You know, after a certain point. So, Sean Kemp, the Rain Man, coming in at number 3 on our list as we continue to move on here, as we get closer to number one on our list of the greatest in-game dunkers in NBA history. And coming in at number two is a guy who, if you watch top 10, if you go on YouTube and put on his top 10 dunks, you might say, man, I maybe made a mistake putting this guy at number two. He possibly could have been number one. He came in at number three on the Tribes list. He was number two on my personal list, and he comes in at number two tonight. We're talking about the human highlight film, man. Dominique Wilkins. Dominique Wilkins, listen. Dominique Wilkins, I talked about Dr. J's facials. Dominique Wilkins consistently dunked on the Boston Celtics. Like, I was watching top 10 highlights of Dominique's dunks. He dunked on Bird. He dunked on Parrish. He dunked on McHale. He just went down the whole line. He dunked on Bill Ward. You just go down the line of guys on the Boston Celtics. And Dominique ate those guys alive. Dominique Wilkins, man, is one of the best dunkers ever, bar none.
Yes, he was. He had, I think he was the best dunker that could jump off of 2 feet, like vertical. He had one of the best verticals ever in the game, as far as like in-game dunks. A lot of people jump off of 1 foot. He could jump off 2, and boom it. And I mean, definitely one of the greatest dunkers of all time. But I had him ranked number 3.
Okay.
I had him ranked number 3. Like I said, I had Kemp ahead of him, but you know, when you get to the top 2 or 3, it gets kind of hard. And I went through highlights. I just felt that Kemp's dunks were a little bit better than his.
Oh no, I don't agree. Go ahead.
But like you said, his dunks was a little bit more biased because he was just dunking all on the Boston Celtics.
But what I liked about Dominique did dunk contest dunks in games. Like,
yeah, you're right.
Kemp was powerful and Kemp would boom on you. But I mean, Dominique would do like windmills and double clutch. He dunked on Mark Eaton. You remember Mark Eaton was like 7'6". He double clutched on Mark Eaton. He got Mark Eaton, but when he got Bird, he almost killed Larry Bird. I mean, Larry Bird came down and you know he had a bad back. He came down like on his legs, and like his body was all contorted. I mean, neat. And that might have been the same game where he got Parrish. He just came 2 feet and just jammed it on Parrish with one hand. Man, he killed the Celtics. But Dominique would do dunk contest dunks in the game. He would double clutch. He would windmill. He would do these reverses. Oh, his best dunk might have been on Bob Lanier. He got Bob Lanier. Bob Lanier was playing for the Milwaukee Bucks.
Oh,
Dominique
he did get Bob.
Came baseline. Bob Lanier bodied him. He double clutched it down and then brought it back up and boomed it. Dominique was sick, bro. Dominique was sick.
Bob Lanier didn't talk to Dominique for years because of that dunk.
Don't blame me, man. He embarrassed him.
I was watching the Knuckleheads podcast, and I think it was Knuckleheads. It could have been Up in Smoke, but Dominique was talking about how like some of them dunks, like a lot of people didn't talk to him after those dunks till he went to the Hall of Fame. So Bob Lanier was one of those people that just did not talk to him. He was mad for some years on that dunk. So yeah, I remember that. Hey, see, now you got me thinking about how I did my picks now, because I totally forgot about that dunk.
Man, and that's what I was saying when I was talking about we talked about Dr. J and how Dr. J maybe had the most facials, but him and Dominique might be neck and neck. I mean, Neek was booming on guys, like killing them, like dunking. I mean, Mark Eaton, Larry Bird, Robert Parrish, you know, the list goes on. He was one of the best in-game dunkers, and then he would carry that over, the slam dunk contest and be one of the best, dunkers in slam dunk winning the slam dunk contest multiple times. So Dominique Wilkins he was a sick individual when it came to slam dunks for sure. So Dominique Wilkins coming in at number 2 on our list. And before we get to number 1 on our list of the best in-game dunkers in NBA history, we always like to talk about snubs. Some people who maybe didn't get a lot of votes, maybe didn't get the recognition we thought they might deserve, and we give them a little shout out here on the GOAT debate. So, James, do you have anybody that you can think of that didn't make the list but was a very impactful dunker?
Uh, uh, it was kind of hard to think of that. I did think about giving Kobe Bryant some recognition
Okay.
as a snub. I was thinking of him because he did do a lot of nice in-game dunks. Some of them were high difficulty at times. So especially early on in his career, as he got older, of course, he didn't do as much, but definitely early Kobe Bryant when he was coming off the bench with the Lakers and his first few years starting with the Lakers.
Yeah.
So
The one dunk I remember from Kobe is the around the back. He goes around his back and then he comes under and does the reverse dunk.
Right.
I can't remember who that was against, but that's the dunk when I think about Kobe Bryant. That's one of the dunks that comes to mind.
The other dunk that comes to mind, it was that one and the one where he came from one side of the basket and just came and just reversed it on the other side.
Okay. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
So the Tribe, as far as their snubs go, they gave a lot of recognition to some, they really highlighted some good dunkers. There was a lot of dunkers who got votes. Guys like Steve Francis. Steve Francis was a guy that was small in stature. Shout out to my man Johnny. He actually submitted that. Who were small in stature, but he was, man, he could get up. Steve Francis could definitely get up. And just being, like I said, small in stature, being able to that springboard jump, tip dunks. He got a lot of guys on tip dunks, and he was one that did well in dunk contests too. So Steve Francis got some votes. He talked about Kobe. I think a couple people recognize Kobe Bryant. Russell Westbrook, not necessarily a finesse dunker, but for his size, maybe the guy with the most power and intensity that I think I might have seen just at a guy his size, dunking the basketball. So he got some love. A guy that I didn't see get any recognition that I would probably highlight, who I thought was a really good dunker, was Tracy McGrady. I thought Tracy McGrady was a really good dunker. Him and a guy we might be talking about soon. Hint, hint. Were cousins and played together. And man, and even his days in Orlando, he was a really powerful dunker. So, Tracy McGrady comes to mind. Who's a dunker today, like that's playing right now? That who would you say is the best in-game dunker in the NBA today? If you had to pick somebody.
If I had to pick somebody today,
right?
uh,
I can't think of anybody. Right, well, the only person I could think of right off the top of my head,
Mhm.
uh, recently, I would say John Morant right now.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah,
Rookie too. You going
yeah,
rookie? Okay.
yeah. I because I've seen his athleticism for his size. He's small in size, but he
Hmm.
gets up there. That's the most recent person I've seen, and because that's the right off the top of the head, that's the first person that popped up.
Okay.
And seeing him in the playing bubble and whatnot, and the things that he could do, I would say John Morant.
Yeah. What about my man? What about my man who won the dunk contest this year, Derrick Jones Jr.
Um,
He's a
I
good
haven't
he's
seen.
a good
I'll be honest with you. I haven't really
yeah,
watched too much of the Heat this year,
right.
so I only
But
seen a few dunks of his, and the only ones I really saw were in the dunk contest. And I'll be honest with you. I think Aaron Gordon got robbed.
okay. Aaron Gordon was another guy who
Yeah, Aaron
got some
Gordon. Yeah,
got some
that's the
votes.
guy right there.
Yeah.
But like I said, I don't watch too much Orlando and Miami basketball. So for me
Okay.
to just really comment on their dunks, in-game dunks. Now dunk contest, that's different.
Right.
But
Right.
in-game dunks, I haven't seen too many of Aaron Gordon's in-game.
Yeah.
Only
Yeah.
when they played the Pistons.
Yeah, man. But yeah, Derrick Jones Jr. Has had some good in game dunks. But you're right. I don't watch a ton of the Heat, but I have seen some highlights, and he's pretty good. Um, Zach LaVine gets off a little bit with some in game dunks. Even after his injury, he's been able to. He's got some bounce. So I like
Yeah,
Zach
he still got
LaVine.
bounce.
Yeah, I still like LeBron. It's not really a whole lot of guys that like. It seems like in this era of basketball, it's more about power dunking. You don't really see too many guys finessing
Right.
it. Because like Giannis, Giannis is a prolific dunker. Westbrook can still get up. LeBron can still get up. But those guys are all kind of power dunkers. They don't really hit you with anything, any type of uh, any type of finesse moves. So I do like John Morant. John Morant is a good one because he does have a little flash, and
Yep.
I like his game a lot. So that was a good call on John Morant. So those are some of our snubs we just wanted to highlight tonight. And now number one, and I think some people may know where we're going here, but this guy, man, he has the whole package. He's athletic, he's powerful,
Yep.
he's got finesse, he freaks it on him. I mean, he does it all. Coming in at number one, let's see. In Toronto, they called him Air Canada. They also called him half man, half amazing. This guy, for my money, the greatest in-game dunker in NBA history. Coming in at number one is none other than Vince Carter. He just didn't do it in that one dunk contest. Everybody thinks about that dunk contest and just how remarkable that was. But if you look at Vince Carter's top 10, go to YouTube, look at his top 10 in-game dunk highlights, bro. He has some monsters on there. When he
See.
dunked on the Kembe Mutombo, that was similar to Blake's Mozgov dunk, where it was like Mutombo went to the eighth floor and Vince went to like the 12th floor. He got up. Vince Carter, the oops he used to catch from Jason Kidd. He did like a Statue of Liberty dunk one time on a breakaway against the Cavs. He hit it with the Statue of Liberty, threw it down in the game.
The dunk
Of
on
course,
Alonzo Mourning.
the Alonzo Mourning dunk. I was just about to say that.
Alonzo Mourning was mad at him for a couple of years on
Oh,
that
I
dunk.
bet, man. The Alonzo Mourning dunk, the dunk where he shakes Chris Mullin, and then Chris Mullin was playing for the Pacers. He goes baseline. Rick Smits comes over to try to block the shot, and Rick Smith is like, "Nah, I ain't gonna mess with this." And Vince comes like up and under, and throws it down. Man, listen. VC was a bad boy, man. And now he's retired. He just finished his playing career, and he had a
Yep.
great NBA career. It gave us a lot of memories. And can we got to talk about the dunk in the Olympics over the dude from
Man,
France over
that
Weiss? That dude was what, like seven? What was he, like 7'3", something like that?
he did. Yeah, he didn't even know he dunked over him until after the game.
Yeah,
He was celebrating just on the fact that he made the dunk because he said he jumped too far. He felt he jumped too far and he wasn't gonna make it. He didn't
yeah,
know he jumped over the guy, and everybody was hyping him up. Kevin Garnett and Gary Payton. And it wasn't until after the game that one, I think it was Kevin Garnett or Gary Payton, brother or cousin or somebody, showed him on the video cam what he
yeah. That he
did.
jumped over. That he jumped over
He
him.
jumped over his head. So
Yeah,
that
man.
that dunk right there was probably like my favorite of all time.
Yeah, it's up there. The Alonzo Mourning dunk, man, where he gets the ball, he loses his handle, gets it, brings it around his back because to prevent it from getting stolen. Then he comes up to Zoe. I mean, he cocks it back and just it was that was
It was
ugly, bro.
sick.
That was ugly. Listen, man, he got Alonzo really good, and of course he got Weiss jumping over the dude's head in the Olympics. Vince Carter, like I said, for my money, he's the greatest in-game dunker, in NBA history. And he just has some great ones, man. And so he's definitely deserving of this spot. So Vince Carter coming in at number one. Just to quickly recap, we just talked about VC. He's number one. He's our best dunker, in-game dunker of all time. Dominique Wilkins at number two. Sean Kemp at number three. Blake Griffin, number four. And Julius Dr. J. Irvin at number five, with our honorable mentions being Shaquille O'Neal, Daryl Dawkins, and LeBron James. Well, that's our list. The best in-game dunkers in NBA history. Want to thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of the GOAT Debate podcast. Be sure, if you have not already, to subscribe to all of our social media. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at GOAT_debate. We're also on Facebook. Just search the GOAT Debate podcast. You'll find us on Facebook. We, of course, like, subscribe. If you listen to us on whatever podcasting outlet, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Google, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you listen to us at, be sure to give us a review. Let us know what you think. We're always looking for ways to improve, and we're always looking for encouragement as well. So if you like the podcast, let us know. There's some ways we can improve. Let us know that as well. Also, I want to thank James for filling in, spur of the moment, popping up, doing this episode with me. It was a great discussion talking about the best dunkers, in-game dunkers in NBA history. James, anything you want to say before we sign off? Appreciate you joining us as a special guest tonight.
All right, I appreciate you having me on. I wish I could have debated you a little bit better. I couldn't do my Darius impression.
Yeah.
I could have sat up there and said, John Stockton was the greatest dunker of all time, but
Yeah. Yeah,
Darius gonna get me for trolling him, but that's all right.
I ain't gonna cloud Darius right now, man. We don't never be on the same page with our list, but
Yeah, I know.
I know
I love
we
that guy
were.
though.
Yeah, I know you and I, just as it pertains to dunkers, this wasn't one that was really a lot of debate. We were kind of in agreement on who was in the top five, and I think it's a good list, man. I think it's a solid list.
Yeah,
Those who don't agree, of course, can comment if they want to give us feedback. If you watch this on Facebook, you can definitely comment in the comment section. Let us know what you think. Let us know who you think your greatest dunkers were. And of course, you can comment on the episode too. If you listen on a podcasting outlet, you can let us know who you thought your greatest dunkers of all time was. So we'd appreciate that support and feedback. Well, this has been another episode of the GOAT Debate podcast. We will be back next week with another exciting episode. Until then, we hope everybody stays safe, stays healthy. We'll check you guys out next time. Peace.
peace out.